A new CBS News poll found that President Trump's executive orders may be generating controversy, but overall they are popular both here in Minnesota and across the country.
53% of those surveyed this month approve of the job he is doing, and 70% of those surveyed believe the president is fulfilling his campaign promises.
President Donald Trump has legacy media in a frenzy as his approval ratings continue to impress critics. CBS host Margaret Brennan asked one of the most stupid questions in network history, and Mitch McConnell becomes the most hated man in politics. Now, guys, I really appreciate y'all hitting the like button. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and for sharing this video. I have all of that and a whole lot more in this video, so let's go and get this show on the road by talking about CNN, shall we? Harry Enton, CNN's senior data reporter and political analyst, he was blown away by the numbers. Check this out.
CBS News out with a new poll showing that Americans seem to be liking what they're seeing. But it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, look, but it's not just CBS. You know, I like to take an average of the polls. And holy smokes, I mean, look at what the difference is between now versus 8 years ago during the first Trump term, right? This is Trump's net approval rating on February 10th. You go back to 2017, Trump was already underwater at -5 points on the net approval rating. That's approval minus disapproval. What a difference 8 years makes. He's on the positive side of the ledger at +4 points. And again, it's not just the CBS News poll. We're talking about the Gallup poll. We're talking about the Ipsos poll. We are talking about the Pew poll. All of these respective pollsters have Trump in a better position now than they did 8 years ago. The bottom line is Americans are far more likely to say they like what they're seeing now versus what they felt during Trump's first term.
And since Harry Enton is a numbers guy, he also covered the president's popularity compared to one of the Republican Party's top guys. Mitch McConnell has made a habit of, let's just say, stonewalling Trump pretty much every chance that he gets. He's actually voted against multiple cabinet nominees for the president, something that he commented on recently from the Oval Office.
Mitch McConnell has now voted against several of your nominees. He voted against RFK Jr. as the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I feel sorry for Mitch. And I was one of the people that led. He wanted to go to the end and he wanted to stay leader. He's not equipped mentally. He wasn't equipped 10 years ago mentally, in my opinion. He'd let the Republican Party go to hell. If I didn't come along, the Republican Party wouldn't even exist right now. Mitch McConnell never really had it. He had an ability to raise money because of his position as leader, which anybody could do. You could do it even. And that's saying a lot.
So we're now at a point where both Republicans and Democrats don't like Mitch, which could mean that he's at the end of his rope when it comes to his political career. It also doesn't help that his approval ratings pale in comparison to that of the president's.
Talk a little bit about Mitch McConnell and the chance he's going to become a folk hero. It ain't going to likely happen. Because I want you to look at his net approval ratings. He is underwater with everybody. He has got the ultimate, or some might say, sad trifecta of being underwater overall. Minus 39 points. 39 percentage points more of the electorate disapproves than approves of the jobs that he has done. How about Democrats? He's 58 points underwater. My goodness gracious, the chance that all of a sudden, just because he cast 3 votes against Trump, that he'd somehow become a folk hero with them is absolutely, frankly, insane. And then with Republicans, of course, he's gone up against Trump before, and that's why he's 17 points underwater with Republicans. When you're underwater with Democrats, Republicans, and overall, the chance that you're going to become a folk hero, it seems rather low to me, Paula.
It does indeed. All right. Of course, the next question is, how does his popularity compare with that of President Trump?
Yeah, so, I think Donald Trump will like these numbers. All right, so let's take a look. This is the net approval rating I got overall, and I got with Republicans. Look how much higher Donald Trump is overall versus Mitch McConnell. Look at that. Trump is on the positive side of the ledger at +3. Mitch McConnell, of course, underwater overall at -39. So Trump is 42 points higher than Mitch McConnell is overall. Among Republicans, of course, Donald Trump very popular there with a +82 point net approval rating. Of course, Mitch McConnell, again, underwater at -17. So you do the math quickly here, 82, 17. That is nearly 100 points higher that Donald Trump is net approval rating wise with Republicans than Mitch McConnell is. The bottom line is that when it comes to the popularity battle, Donald Trump comes out way, way, way ahead of Mitch McConnell.
From CNN, let's go on over to CBS News, where Margaret Brennan may have just ended her last days of interviewing politicians. In an interview with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Brennan asked something related to free speech. Here, listen to this.
I want to ask you about what happened in Munich, Germany at the security conference. Vice President Vance gave a speech, and he told U.S. allies that the threat he worries about the most is not Russia. It is not China. He called it the threat from within, and he lectured about what he described as censorship, mainly focusing, though, on including more views from the right. He also met with the leader of a far-right party known as the AfD, which, as you know, is under investigation and monitoring by German intelligence because of extremism. What did all of this accomplish other than irritating our allies?
Well, why would our allies or anybody be irritated by free speech and by someone giving their opinion? We are, after all, democracies. The Munich Security Conference is largely a conference of democracies in which one of the things that we cherish and value is the ability to speak freely and provide your opinions. And so I think if anyone's angry about his word, they don't have to agree with him, but to be angry about it, I think actually makes his point. I thought it was actually a pretty historic speech, whether you agree with him or not. I think the valid points he's making to Europe is we are concerned that the true values that we share, the values that bind us together with Europe, are things like free speech and democracy and our shared history in winning 2 world wars and defeating Soviet communism and the like. These are the values that we shared in common. And in that Cold War, we fought against things like censorship and oppression and so forth. And when you see backsliding and you raise that, that's a very valid concern. We can't tell them how to run their countries. He simply expressed in a speech his view of it, which a lot of people frankly share. And I thought he said a lot of things in that speech that needed to be said. And honestly, I don't know why anybody would be upset about it.
I understood what Vice President Vance wanted to say. Secretary Rubio misunderstood what the VP meant. And I'm pretty sure that all of you who watched his speech, you know what he was talking about. But of course, common sense isn't a real strong suit for these leftist journalists, because instead of understanding what Secretary Rubio was saying, she doubled down, suggesting that free speech was used to conduct genocide. Now, I wish I was kidding, but they put this up on their freaking channel.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
She's got to be kidding, right? Because this is by far one of the worst interviews I've seen from CBS. And we know that there's a lot of bad ones to choose from. But to say that free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide, like, that's a whole nother level of stupid. I almost want to give her a round of applause for that one. And it's evident to all of us that she just doesn't know what the heck she's talking about. She just wants to try and make Vice President J.D. Vance look as bad as she can going against censorship. Today, we are diving into a major healthcare crisis that no one's talking about. Did you know that the very drugs that we rely on for detecting cancer and life-threatening diseases are in short supply? That's right, guys. Contrast media, the essential radiology drugs used in MRIs, CT scans, and x-rays, they're running low worldwide. But don't worry, guys, there's a game-changing solution on the horizon. So stick with me, because this could be literally changing the future of medicine. So what are contrast media and why do they matter, right? Well, if you've ever had an MRI, if you've ever had a CT scan or an x-ray, chances are you've used contrast media. These drugs make it possible for doctors to see inside your body to detect cancer early and diagnose diseases. They're also made from 3 key minerals: barium, used in x-rays and CT scans to detect cancer in the digestive system; iodine, injected for MRIs, helping doctors find tumors and diseases in organs; and you also have gadolinium, used for brain scans to highlight abnormalities. But without these contrast agents, doctors are essentially flying blind. But here's the problem here, guys. There's a massive global shortage, and it's only getting worse. In fact, the global crisis could ultimately leave us in a situation where we run out. But there's 2 main reasons for this. Number one, you've got the rising demand, more diseases, more scans, and an aging population. All of this means that we need more contrast media than ever before. There's the limited supply. The raw materials used to make these drugs are controlled by just a handful of companies, and they're struggling to keep up. And because of this, manufacturers are cutting supplies to smaller countries and focusing only on major markets. This means millions of people worldwide don't have access to life-saving diagnostic tools. And to note, North America is import dependent of all transport or contrast media because we have no manufacturers in North America. Until now, the industry monopoly and who's in control? Well, the contrast media industry is dominated by 4 major companies: GE, Bracco, Bayer, and Gerbert. Now, here's the kicker. None of them own their own mineral resources. Instead, they rely on foreign suppliers, making the supply chain fragile and expensive. For example, GE controls a huge share of its iodine market because of a long-term deal GE made with a Chilean chemical company that makes their iodine chemical ingredient. Bracco holds a monopoly on barium contrast media, but it's synthetic and it's not natural. Bayer and Gerbert, well, they're struggling to compete due to mineral shortages. Now, with demand rising and supplies dwindling, contrast media prices are skyrocketing. And that's where the sponsor of today's video, Voyager Pharmaceuticals, comes in. Now, of course, Voyager Pharmaceuticals can be found on the TSXV exchange under ticker symbol VM, on the OTC Pink exchange under ticker symbol VYYRF. So Voyager is about to shake up the industry in a big way. And here's why they are the only company in North America that can fix this crisis. They own their own minerals. And unlike the big 4, Voyager controls its supply minerals for contrast agents. They are the only manufacturer in North America, creating a secure domestic supply chain, cutting out expensive overseas supply chains. They're vertically integrated from mining to drug production. They control the entire process. This means a cheaper, more stable, and more secure supply of contrast media, something that the healthcare industry desperately needs. The game-changing barium project? Well, right now, Voyager is importing barium for $7,300 per ton from third parties. But in 2025, they're set to launch their own mining project in Francis Creek in British Columbia, where they'll produce barium at just $650 per ton. That's over 70% profit margins and a major market disruption. The gold barium market is worth $600 million, and Voyager has the potential to take a 20% market share, generating $120 million in revenue. The breakthrough iodine solution. Now, Voyager isn't stopping at barium. They're tackling iodine next with a revolutionary streamlined iodine system in Oklahoma and in Utah. Now, unlike the traditional methods that waste up to 30% of iodine, their process may achieve a yield rate significantly larger, making it faster and cheaper than anything that the big 4 can do. So why does this matter, right? Well, right now, iodine contrast media is expensive because they have to extract the iodine minerals, convert them into iodine flake, a costly process, ship it to Europe and China for further processing, convert it back into iodine for radiology drugs. Voyager plans to skip all of those steps by extracting iodine from brine water and producing iodine drugs directly on site. This means lower costs, fewer supply chain issues, and faster production. So where is Voyager today, huh? Well, Voyager is already making moves, launching barium contrast media in Canada, seeking FDA approval for barium contrast media in the United States, fast-tracked in just 180 days, partnering with a top 5 contrast media manufacturer for future projects. And with the United States being the largest consumer of contrast media, Voyager is on track for major revenue in 2026. Bottom line here, guys, this isn't just about business, it's about saving lives. So right now, hospitals are struggling to get the contrast media that they need, and patients are suffering because of it. Voyager is stepping up to fix the supply chain, reduce costs, and make diagnostic drugs accessible to everyone. Now, of course, Voyager Pharmaceuticals can be found on the TSXV exchange under ticker symbol VM, on the OTC Pink exchange under ticker symbol VYYRF. Now, this is one of the biggest medical disruptions in years, guys, and you heard it here first. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below with your thoughts, and let's get this conversation started because everyone deserves access to life-saving diagnostics, right? Now, this is something that liberal mainstream media has been doing for decades. But just so that we're clear, let's talk about Nazi Germany. The goal back then was to brainwash people into following what they were told. This was done through propaganda and through censorship. Nobody else had a voice besides the people that they allowed to actually have a voice. So I'm not sure why Brennan is this misguided, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a complication from TDS syndrome. This kind of reminds me of a previous live stream I did because these liberal hosts are getting fact-checked hard. MSNBC's Rachel Maddow was caught literally lying on national television. Make sure you guys check that out because I'm confused as to why she's still on the air. As always, appreciate y'all hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. We'll see you next time.